Everybody, welcome into the Beehive. I'm your host, the Bee at LLC. This is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar. Our pollen is silver, our nectar is gold, preserving our wealth is honey of old, and like ancient metals, we hold our own. So today I would like to talk a little bit about the moving silver price, the fact that it is heading upwards, and the trajectory seems to remain solidly in one direction, and talk a little bit about the fact that I've been expecting this for a while, and in both, well, pretty much in all the metals, but especially in silver. And now that it's underway, I am surprised to find that a lot of the channels out there that were fairly hard on some of us that thought we would not only get above $40 again, but that we would go much higher, including triple-digit calls. And so surprised to see some of these channels just, turn around and jump on the bandwagon as if they had always had this in mind. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting. But today I have a space miner joining me for this little conversation. We're just gonna look through some metal prices, chit chat. If anybody wants to hop up, let me know. And let me bring Space Miner up here. Space Miner, welcome in. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. How are you?
Good. So yeah, I thought I would just pop up here and do a live stream while the metals are on the move. Let me pull up a price chart here we'll take a glance at before we get into it. So yeah, we've got 71.66. So not only have we broken through 70, we have actually almost touched 72 on this particular chart. So yeah, we're still on the move, solidly upward. And on the week, we're up 12% just this week, $7.95. Wonder what we're doing today. So we're at about 250 today, and it's not over yet, but we've been having $2.50 moves daily for a while now, and that 5% is a rough estimate on moves per day as well. Has been quite common. So, as we move up, I was saying I think we'll see $5 moves in a day, and I expect that to be coming soon as that 5% level will become larger dollar moves as the price rises to gain that 5%. So we have Broke Stacker and Neil's Han Dynasty. Think Differently 3000. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. A Merry Christmas to everybody out there. And hope you have a good New Year as well. In case we don't see you, I probably be back talking before that. But if I don't see you or you hear from me, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and everything in between. If you want to hop up, hop on. I'll send you over a link. Let me know. Or Think Differently 3000. I don't know if you have access to a mic, but if you'd like to pop up and tell us about the triple-digit silver price you have down under, I would love to hear about that as well. But thanks for being here either way. So yeah, I just find it funny at how much trolling was going on for people like me that I guess would be considered a pumper. I don't consider myself a pumper, but as far as other people were saying, you know, I've been calling for triple digits. I'm not even slow and hesitating at triple digits. I'm waiting for over $200 before I really even think about, maybe getting rid of a few ounces to pay some bills or something. But so I've been expecting these big moves, but I hear people in the silver community and gold community, surprisingly, because they're stackers. Like when I came into the stacking community, I figured everyone would have the same opinion as I do, that we'd all be on the same, path of, oh, silver is gonna rocket quite a ways higher. It's been suppressed. And then after being in the community for a while, I was surprised to find that that's not the case. In fact, you have stackers who are quite negative towards people who were saying it would go over $40. And they were saying, these people shouldn't be out here saying these types of things. You're going to get a lot of people hurt. And I guess for, the past 50, 60 years, I can see where they're coming from. But for me, understanding that we're on a different playing field, it's a whole new ball game because of, the destruction of our monetary system. I kind of am pushing back the other way, saying, you're going to hurt people by claiming that it's not going to go up in value, by telling people, oh, it's never going to get above 40 again. Well, what are you saying, that, there's not a fiat dollar crisis then? And so I see that we're coming at it from different sides of the coin, as it were. And, and that leads me to my next point about seeing people a few weeks back when we really started this last leg up. I didn't go, but I heard people buying at these coin shows and both selling and buying quite a ways below spot, and people being happy to get, a few dollars under spot on their sales, thinking, oh, I'm lucky to capture this price, even though I'm selling below spot, at $40 or $45, they're ecstatic just to get in at that price. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, that whole narrative of, it's not going to go higher. If it gets to 40, it'll crash back down the next day. I think that's what led people to, when it's at 45 or 50, happily selling for 40 or 45, because they don't believe that price is real, and they're lucky to get that value out of it. And I just am shaking my head, thinking you hold all this time and you sell at spot when it's at 15, when it's at 20, when it's at 25, or you buy in at a $2 premium to spot and all these other levels. But finally, when it makes a move in the direction you want, you kowtow and sell under spot when you should at least be getting spot. So I think that the whole narrative going the other way is hurting people, saying that silver is not gonna go up higher and sell out, as if it gets above 40, you're really lucky, it's gonna crash. To me, that narrative has probably already done a fair amount of damage. Because I think those people that sold, it was at $50, they sold at 45 with a smile on their face. Now I've got to be, shaking their head a little bit, seeing it blow through $70. So I don't know. I'm a little surprised to see the negativity in silver by stackers themselves. And, I wish that instead of them just, kind of hammering on the pumpers, or being so negative towards them, take a look at this bigger picture and hear us out, at least where we're coming from. And maybe it's not quite so cut and dry and the same playing field as people seem to figure that it was for so long. So that's my little rant and spiel for the first couple minutes. What say you, Space Miner?
No, just kind of reflecting on what you're saying. There's a tool for every job and a job for every tool, right? And so you got to treat every metal differently, as for your investment strategy. Okay. Yes, we saw guys, back in the day buying at the 40 and then they held forever. But that doesn't mean they couldn't have kept going with their investment and recovered that, and returned their position, through cost average, right? So, like, there's more than one move you can make. We're supposed to be responding to our markets, okay? And I think that's part of our financial responsibility is the ability to, like, look at your investments, whatever they are, and say, all right, these operate differently than these, operate differently than these. And all of them are going to go up and down anyways, so you need to be, I'd say there's a certain amount of responsibility for those of us that would buy high. Okay. We have to be prepared to recover that. Okay. Now we can either just say, sell it all out and I'll wait for the next dip in 20 years, or in 20 days, because we don't know. None of us know. We don't, there's too many things, too many variables affecting the market in any given day. In any given day, they could swing your investment the complete opposite direction. And so for somebody like me in caveman mode, it's pretty simple, for me. I'm not full of millions of dollars. I can usually empty my pockets and figure out where my money went, and so on that note, I'm in it for the long haul in most of my things, best I can. I respond to the market best I can, and so if it starts going down tomorrow and I'm still buying, well, if I'm not measuring my value in USD, but whether measuring my value in ounces of material, well, then I never lost anything. I still got the same amount of ounces of material. I don't personally live in the realm of USD. I like to joke, I got an empty wallet, full pockets. I don't.
Right.
I don't track through USD. I don't operate unless I have to. I don't operate through USD. I'm usually tied in with all sorts of different metals and materials, and I might spend my USD differently one day to the next. And so whenever I see a big motion like this, and I think about how many people got freaked out at 30, and these are silver, and these are silver guys. These guys have been in it for the long haul. They've been in it for 2 decades, and they're finally reaping it. And now they're worried about $30 support structure. Can we maintain this kind of a floor? And so they sell it out, thinking, "Oh, I'm a silver guy. I'll just get back in on the next dip." Well, dude, until that dip comes around, guess what? If you sold out, you're not a silver guy anymore. If you're waiting on that next dip, you're not a silver guy. And now you got to find somewhere else to put your USD. You got to find somewhere else to put your fiat now. Now, what are you going to invest in? And so for a lot of us, precious metals folk, it's hard to consider putting your money elsewhere, when you kind of seen the trustworthiness of tangible metals. And I guess that's kind of my note. There's probably a lot of sad silver guys right now thinking, what did I do? Even if I entered in right now, I'd lose so much value. Should I wait for my dip? And so they end up putting it in oil and thermal coal, and now they're dealing with oil and thermal coal, and they're going to have to respond to that market now, and they're going to have to decide what's more important to them at some point.
Right.
Go
Yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry.
I would have to say for me, when at the last peak, at the last $50 peak, or let's go back to the 1980 peak, where everybody relates it to the Hunt brothers, which I was watching Mike Maloney the other day, and he said actually only 2%, about 2% of that market was the Hunt brothers. So he's saying that it's a way overplayed card on they didn't have nearly the effect that a lot of people think, that it was all the Hunt brothers cornering the market. Actually, he says that only about 2% of that market was the Hunt brothers. Now, it may have been at a critical time, and they were trying to capture that last corner of the market, kind of per se. But um, point being there that it wasn't just the Hunt brothers. And the thing about what the Hunt brothers were seeing is that they thought it was going to be the end of the dollar. And so they were kind of looking at silver the same way I'm looking at silver, except I believe that they were just a bit early. And so, yeah, if you bought at that peak, sure, it's been a long, 40 years. But also, to your point, if you understand that they may have been early, but the same tactics are still in place, the same mode of being able to print a fiat currency that can be done from just by tapping digits on a keyboard, um, is going to eventually play out the way all other fiat currencies play out, at zero, value of zero. And so, yeah, you might have got in kind of an expensive point, there at $50 in 1980. But if you would have, let it drop and then continually accumulated at that lower value, now not only did you recoup you haven't quite yet inflation adjusted to recoup yourself, but with that undervalued metal you picked up in between right now, you'd be having a smile on your face. And kind of what I want to point out is that you kind of need to understand the fiat system. You kind of need to look at the bigger picture, to understand or have a solid position in silver, because that way you're not going to get shaken out on some little dip. And you can also look at other factors in this game where you have new lines being drawn up throughout countries. Wars are taking place. We're talking about just, Greenland looks good, so we're going to take it. Um, and these commodity prices, the embargoes, the you know uh, trade deficits, trade issues, the commodity war, which is a lot of people say we're in a currency war, which is basically the same as saying we're in a commodity war. At least that's where it will end up, is a commodity war. So when you see all these lines being redrawn, trade suddenly coming to a screeching halt, high tariffs, 100 plus percent tariffs, and suddenly in some areas, you can understand that, okay, some of the reality that was set aside for a while is starting to come back into play. And that's a really big hint that the fiat system, the fiat strength, is starting to lose its power. And once you understand that, then it's just kind of a what's the best commodities that you can get into that are going to perform best for you. And so, housing is already kind of, a lot of people consider in a bubble. Now you need a place to stay. So if you still, need to get into a house, that's understandable. But if you have a house or you have a place where you're staying, then, maybe wait for that market to dip down again. Because some of these overpriced bubbles from the never-ending printing of fiat are going to come crashing back down. And, especially if you look at some of these areas like commercial real estate, my goodness, you talk about some big holes in that market, when everyone was going to the office and these companies were just growing and growing and need more and more office space. Sure, there's a lot of value in there, but now that it's crashing back down, you've got high rises downtown Denver that used to be full of office workers and now they're just empty. And so huge opportunities in commercial real estate coming up ahead. And I would say all the way through, lots of job losses. There's going to be a lot of housing opening up. So I think that market has quite a ways to come down. And so, if you can, for instance, let me give you an idea here. Like I got into my house at a good place, a good time. It went from about 100 grand to 450. So if I was to sell now, capture that bubble, put that into the undervalued metal, especially if we were to go back a month or two, because I could have done the same thing then, because I thought I'd talked with my family about this, and if we could have captured that value of the house, put it into the undervalued metals, and then had a place to stay while that equalized a little bit, man, you could make some big steps up. And so, to me, these are the important things to see and look at. And once you see and understand some of these things, that's going to give you a solid footing on holding on to your metals till you find a place to go with your value that's suitable. And so, these washouts of the $50 1980 and the $50 2011 are just hints and proof that when that market gets tight, it can really move a long ways. Now, most everyone sees and understands and believes in the manipulation, some more than others. But even with the whole 1980 Hunt Brothers ordeal, you had the government come in and say you can no longer buy any more metals, all you can do is sell. Now that's manipulation, without any confusion about it. That's open manipulation. And then they sold in a whole bunch of their stockpile in the market to crash it down. Well, when you see that, sure, you can get frustrated and throw up your hands and say, oh, it's manipulated, why invest in that market? But the other side of that coin is that's exactly why you would invest in the market, because it is manipulated down. And if it is being manipulated, eventually that will have to right itself. And, so to me, we're seeing that in those little peaks. And one of these times, it's not going to be just a little peak. It's going to be the real deal. And they're not going to be able to manipulate it down, because there is going to be a true crunch on the supply of silver, which I believe we're starting to walk into right now. And so, that gives you all the reasons to stay in silver. You've got a long ways to go. And in fact, a lot of people will say, when it hits 100 or when it hits 150 or when it hits this mark, I'm selling out. Well, if I'm correct in my thinking, it's going to keep going right through 100, 150, 200. And when you get to these points, are you sure that you're going to want to get back into the fiat dollar? Because that's the thing that is rapidly, devaluing. What good is it going to do you to get into that fiat market when it's at the end of our life cycle? yeah, we've already lost 99% of our purchasing power since it was created. And yes, the last percent is 100% from here. Yes, but that's where you get into the hyperinflationary event. That's why we're starting to see these numbers move so rapidly. And so it's going to make no, so you're going to ultimately regret selling out of your metals at these high numbers if you're just moving back into fiat. If you move into some other valuable thing or houses or whatever, sure, fine, okay. But yeah, in my opinion, people really need to look at the foundational picture so that they're not knocked off like has happened this past month when people were, dogging on people for buying at an all-time high of $50, and how ridiculous they were to buy, and selling their metals a few, $5 under spot. Because they're so scared of their position. And for me, that's just ridiculousness, because I've been saying since I opened my channel that we're going triple digit and beyond. And so yeah, I think the pain, the hurt can go both ways. Sure, the hurt can be the 1980 high peak of 50, and if you bought in all at that point and then had to ride out that dip for long, I can see you being hurt about that. I can see you being upset about that. But that hurt is going to go you're just going to double your pain if you don't move back into it at this point, because you were right to buy in then, you were just a little early.
B, let's talk about that real quick. I want to bring a point up at this point, is that I think a lot of what we're experiencing right now is we're getting a lot like, look, this is a big event going on with silver, right? And so everybody out there is responding to this, because it is stunning. But in that regard, we have to remember that every voice you hear is responding. When we see all these different personalities online, okay, these guys are all responding to this from different positions, okay? Some of these guys, like, let's look at the day traders. Like, dude, a lot of these motions are freaky to a day trader. Like, this is a really dangerous moment for a day trader, not a lifetime stacker, And so, like, I think what we're kind of experiencing is we're like sharing all this commentary and throwing it into one pot, and then just looking at this one pot of commentary and trying to decide if it's a good or bad, time. Well, is this a good or bad time for the day trader, or is this a good or bad time for the lifelong stacker? Is this a good or bad time for a jeweler? Because this might be a great time for a jeweler, gain some of that premium that's been sitting on your shelf for 3 years, but this is a terrible time for a day trader, even more an options trader. I'd hate to be an options trader right now. Like, it'd be terrible, it'd be so stressful. But so we're looking at different lenses of timing. We're looking through different lenses of different types of markets. The tangible guy is going to move. His market should be a little bit slower than the paper guy. If your entire investment is on Robinhood, you need to treat that differently than if your entire investment is buried in the chicken coop. And that's kind of like what I'd like to raise point to. I'm not like solving anything with this at the moment, but I think if we maybe started examining, like, wait, who are we talking? Like, who, what, when, where, why? Like, who are we talking about? Why do they care about this part right now? And if we don't start,
what?
We don't start separating,
we're going to muddy the water and like start building a lot of arguments with each other, because we're going to be mixing and conflating two different arguments. And so there's my little piece if you want to.
Yeah, no, that's I fully agree with that. And From me on my side, it's kind of frustrating because, like I say, I came in early on and figured all the stackers would be on the same page. We understand that the fiat system's coming to an end. The feet are being kicked out from under the legs of the United States. It's being done on this is my stance from the get. Now I'm finding out, man, I'm one of the few that has this idea. So, but I'm doing it all with a heart that wants to help people. I don't want the legs to be kicked out from under the United States. That's why I'm trying to get people to stack into the silver, because if we're putting all our trust in daddy government and his fiat currency, then we're going to get greatly hurt. And it's not that I wish it wasn't the case. I wish I wasn't stacking, because I wish that our dollar was going to stay strong, our fiat dollar. But from my understandings and my looking at the bigger picture, we're going to be hurt if we stick on with that trust base. We have to get back to a lot of what we were founded on as a country, for me, in my opinion. And not only does it say that gold and silver is what we should use for all payment of debt in our Constitution, but that we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as long as we're not defrauding someone else or hurting someone else in some way. And we're self-sufficient. And now we went a long way from that self-sufficiency into handouts and, just give me. For what reason? For no reason, just because I want. Not, and that's doesn't set up for a strong, healthy society. So
no, our nation needs to be able to trade more than paper.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, this brick still, it's not as big of a threat as people really want to make it. If you have something of value and something good to trade, like, why is this brick such a threat? Oh, it's because we're weak-handed and we got nothing in our pockets. We got full wallets and nothing in our pockets, And I'd rather us be a nation of empty wallets and full pockets. Yeah. And let the dollars respond how they may. Let the paper respond. Let the paper respond. But we don't have anything. We don't produce anything comparatively. Right. Back in the day, we were an economic powerhouse.
Yeah.
We had the trade. We had the trade partnerships. We had the materials. We had the people. We had the liberty to operate.
Yeah.
We weren't getting pillaged by our governments. And this is how they were able to establish this trust system with the dollar in the first place. It was this that powered the dollar. Yeah. We went from gold powering the dollar to trust in the economy powering the dollar. But now we don't even have trust in the economy. Yeah. And now we're over here scrapping, begging, and stealing from other countries. We're literally back to looting, war looting. Yeah. And that's sad.
Yeah.
And we don't control our government. But we can control our own life. So this is how we need to respond.
Yeah, and like Welchko's saying here, I don't have greed, I fear this. Why own silver? Exactly. And Welchko, I loved your video with your dog there the other day. That sweet dog there you got. I thought that was pretty cool. But I agree with you. Your statement there, Welchko, is I didn't get into this because silver is shiny and I really like the designs. Now, since getting in, I have fell in love with silver and the designs. That's why I got into ancient coins, was for their beauty, but that's kind of another subject, and the reality of their history. But, I got in because of my, if you call it, I guess, fear, and it's that, It's the realization of the reality of what's taking place. And, it's not that I wanted to get rich. It's that I didn't want to end up in a place where my family had no stability and no footing. And I had to put my hand out like everybody's trying to do right now, which I think is harmful, because that puts you in a situation where you're willing to accept anything that goes along with that handout. You're willing to take whatever steps necessary that they ask of you in order to get that. And I fear that since the government is not coming out and telling me to stack when they know what's happening, then maybe they have some bad ulterior motives to give me that handout when that day arises. So yeah, I agree, Welchko. I didn't get in this to get rich. It's not that I was greedy. It's that I just wanted to be able to have a foundation for my family, and I, I'm very grateful that I was able to see the bigger picture and get into some of these metals, because it is preserving my footing, and otherwise I would be in big trouble right now. So,
well, look at what you raised a point the other night about, how your power company, right, was saying, oh, we're going to be temporarily suspending service. And it's like, guys, you don't need to do that. Like they gave some BS reason. They don't care. Just give them a reason, kind of thing, right? Shut down their service, get them used to that. Okay. Well, you were less affected. You're less affected by that than other people.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known if I wasn't told about it, because my power rolled on through, luckily. But
because you weren't having to instantly respond to this situation, you weren't forced into the knee jerk. Somebody didn't come over with a baseball bat to your knee, right? Because you weren't subject to that, it gave you the time, the liberty, and the freedom to kind of like look at the bigger picture in that moment, to be able to slow down your response long enough to even think about this, instead of being so busy responding, or reacting, I should say, not responding, but, reacting.
Yeah.
You were able to respond rather than have to react. And,
yes.
and that's representative of where we really need to be right now as Americans, as the independent nation. We need to be just that, independent. We need to not be subject to some bully shutting down our power for a week, or shutting down our water, or shutting down our natural gas,
and sadly, I think that's not just a one-time. This was an excuse. Like, we've had wind my entire life. What do you think? This is the first time wind is blown? No, this is simply an excuse for them to start rolling out, hey, we're going to shut the power off today, and hey, we're going to shut it off again next week, and hey, don't expect it next month. And, walking people into this new realm where they just shut the power off when they want to. And this is why I'm getting into this, is because when you start looking into the monetary system, you start seeing the power controls, and that leads you to things like the WEF and the WHO. And then when you listen to what they're saying, they're telling you openly, oh, we plan on reducing, the carbon footprint. We plan on taking power down to zero use, and no more fossil fuels and all these. It's like, well, holy cow, how are we going to be surviving it? Well, they don't really care about that. They're happy if the population goes down a little bit. And they're just blatantly open about these things. And as much as people don't want to allow for that to be a reality, they don't want to believe that people would have that bad of a heart, or that wicked of an outlook, or that little care for humanity. But sadly to say, that's exactly where some of these people stand. And
maybe not everybody is, but there's a percentage that are
right up at the top. Yeah. Yep.
There's still those that are, and some of those that are inhospitable to human life. Well, they have the money that they get to make the rules, and they make rules to the people that don't have any control over their own situation.
Yeah. Yep.
That's who they make the rules. You know, this Hunt brother thing, you know, it goes to, again, reflecting on that. If it really was only 2%, that's a perfect demonstration of how little effect we have on the overall system, you know? And the only people that were like, you know, it only affects you. Again, it only affects you if, like, look, the power going out only affects you if you don't have power at home. Yeah. And so if you already have the precious metals, if you already own some, then when they start doing this, who cares? They can't cut you off anymore. You know, these banks can cut you off at any time. They cut you off all the time. They cut us all the dang time, whether it's how much we can put in, how much we can take out, you know, bank holidays, fraud, stopping, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's all about disconnecting, you know. So, like, who cares if they can run all these huge giant systems if it doesn't affect you? This is ultimately how you strip them of the power, by being unaffected by it.
Yeah, and I want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier that is the larger, bigger picture game that's going on, that we would be able to remove their power from us if we would quit allowing for these small differences among us to separate us into a place where we are arguing with each other constantly, just to defend our standpoint when it really doesn't even need to be defended. You know, there is the case where they're trying to force us to do like what they do, but for the most part, people's opinions are for themselves, and they might have a different opinion than you, but that's fine, because you don't have to live that way. They're not telling you have to live that way. That's just how they see it and how they're living it. And we need to, because we all have different childhoods and different foundations that we stand on that give us the strength to get through our daily life. And when someone else has a different foundation, we think to ourselves, well, that's really scary. I can't, I need to argue that because I couldn't have that for a foundation. Well, but we don't need to argue. That's their foundation, And so, we have to overcome some of these little differences to overcome the power that they have over us, because that's where they're getting all the power over us. You look at the left-right paradigm here in America and how crazy they're having to get the extremes for people to stay focused on the left-right paradigm while the train keeps going down the same track, while the overhead power keeps things going the way they want it. They have to get the left-right really mad at each other, so they use extreme examples, and they try to make a woman a man or a man a woman, and people are just like, well, that's crazy, you can't do that. So they start fighting amongst that left-right. Well, then that allows for like somebody like, I hope I don't make a bunch of people mad, but let's not get mad about this, guys. But when you allow Trump to come in and say, no, a man is a man and a woman is a woman, that makes the right just, oh my goodness, we're so lucky that we have Trump. But if you look at it from a distance and you've been watching this game for a while, you see that they set up these punts or these talking points ahead of time. So like when the left is in office, they can say, oh, let's let a woman be a man and use the bathroom or whatever, and then when the right comes in, they can say, no, I'm taking that new implementation of that new law away. Well, these laws that are being put in place, everybody cheers, oh, yay, men have to use men's bathrooms, women, oh, great, of course I agree with that. That's just common sense. Most everyone with a common mind thinks that that's great. But it's that they're allowing those talking points to be used so that they can overturn them, so that they look like the hero for their own side, for their own paradigm. And then that keeps the focus off the real problem at hand. And so, but it happens all the way down into religion. Religion is a big one, and fighting amongst denominations. And there's last I read 35,000. I hear it's more now, different denominations, and whichever church you walk into, they're going to claim they have it exactly right, or at least righter than everyone else does, to an extent that you have to get on board with their way, and they're the ones that have it right, and no one else does. And that division that we have that keeps us all divided is problematic. And we have to be there's no one that's going to have the exact same beliefs as you do, just across the board, because we all have been raised a little bit differently. We've all had different experiences. My kids growing up in the city, they don't think it's that important to get bundled up with coats and beanies and hats to go, across town to get groceries, because they go from the warm house to a warm car to a warm grocery store to back to their warm house. Whereas me, I know that, in the country, if your car breaks down halfway to the nearest town 2 hours away, you might have to walk through snowbanks for hours. And if you don't have all of your, clothing bundled on, you could freeze to death. So it's a much different outlet. I try to talk my kids into getting their coat on, and why do I need a coat? And I was like, because it's wintertime. What do you mean? But it's because of the different background of understanding. And, I find that a lot, that somehow we have to overcome our little idiosyncrasies that are causing us to battle with each other nonstop. When overall we have much more to agree upon than these little separation points that we allow to keep us fighting.
Well, and not everything demands new law and more regulation and legislation, and not everything demands your knee to jerk, and not everybody has to parrot the same thing. That's one of the big dangers. What's going on is every time we try to fix a problem, we create 10 more with the legislation and regulation, and if you don't allow for that free exercise of wealth transfer, but sorry, kind of coming back to the, like silver and stuff, if you don't allow for that free market, it is ultimately going to crash and collapse. And so a lot of these problems we did kind of create for ourselves by demanding solutions, and instead of just letting life respond. We've discussed this time and time again, how a lot of these things the market would naturally correct. You don't need to do anything about it. It'll fix. You don't need to worry about that. It'll fix. These we need to. I would like to see the stacker community and kind of go back to some of these core basics. Can we just go back to refresher class for a second? All of us, just go back, have one good refresher, see what we still agree on here. The core principles of what's going on, resources and application. There's only so much silver in the ground. And of that, there's only so much we're actually going to be able to get a hold of. And of all that stuff we're actually going to be able to get a hold of, there's only so many people actually digging it up, and only so many people actually refining it.
Yeah.
There's only so much actually there.
Right.
A lot of this is, it's like people worrying about the support structure of triple digit silver right now. Right. It's like, guys, if you really consider this, the world's getting bigger every day, and it's not like there's a new mine springing up for every million people,
For sure. And like Knackers O'Reilly is saying here, we want others to think for us. I find that to be a big problem nowadays. We have signs when we go into the grocery store. Stand here on these 2 footprint stickers that we put down on the floor, and stay 6 feet apart, and make sure you're wearing a mask, and going through all of these things they're telling us to do. And I really want people to start thinking for themselves, instead of just, oh, go get your jab today, and that's, well, everybody's doing it. These are these are things that you need to think through for yourself, and not let others make up your mind for you. I even, a big one that kind of is just a little pet peeve of mine, and I hope I don't offend too many here on this show, but in so many of, this is like a YouTube problem all around, is everyone comes on and says this channel is a free thinkers channel, and everybody thinks for like, share, and subscribe, and do, well, you're telling people what to do there. And sadly, that's generally when people do hit the like, share, and subscribe, is when you tell them. And we need to go back to not just doing it because we're told to. We need to decide that for ourselves. And then you need to be a big enough person to, like, if you like something, like it, and if you want to subscribe, and make those decisions up yourself. Don't just do them because others are telling you to do it. And like, that's and it sounds so stupid and little, and it is, but like, it has to start somewhere, and so I don't know, we just, on so many things, we need to make it our own. You decide if you want something, or if you like something, or you look at the base for something and decide if it's worthy of your time or not. Muscle Shell, welcome in. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to jump up here, just let me know, and I will send you a link. You can hop up.
Well, saying sounds like prison. It's like it just got me thinking. We should be sorry. Here, hold on. All right, there we are. Sorry. We should be really careful about what we're agreeing with. Because I think a lot of people would be shocked to see how much their ideals of a perfect population would line up with a prison population. We got to have the cameras to be safe. We got to have the armed guards. We got to have these segregations in classes of different types of people. We got to have, the check in, check out. We got it. Well, dude, sounds like you're describing a prison, because they got all those wonderful things you're talking about. And guess what? They're still not safe.
Our prisons, boy, there's a whole nother one in itself. But like, a lot of people who are in the prison for a while, especially certain characters, like they want to go back in because they have it better in prison than they have it anywhere else. They get served 3 meals a day. They've got a bed. They've got warmth. It's free, and so, I mean, I've never been to jail. Thank goodness. I don't think I would do good in jail, but I hear, and see people that say, no, jail is good for me, and that's scary.
Yeah, but it's like, I'm not going to be one of those guys that falls into the whole, jail's some pleasure cruise, 3 hots in a cot. I'm like, I don't want to be one of those guys, because, for the guys that it is easy, it's because they grew up with it that way. It is an easy system for them. But for those that aren't used to being a prisoner, it's a terrible, terrible, terrible experience, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that does go, again, that just kind of goes to demonstrate the point again. Be careful what you become comfortable with. Be careful what kind of life, what does that mean? Where are you going to find that kind of a lifestyle you want? where would you find that kind of lifestyle you want? You know, what does your lifestyle look like? You know, like nowadays, you know, the whole you'll own nothing and be happy. You know, it's kind of ironically materializing, you know, that we're really starting to see that, where you don't even own the functions of your car anymore. You know, you buy subscriptions to your car features, and
yeah, modern cars.
People don't buy cars; they lease them. You know,
and they'll drive you back to the car lot and say you haven't made your payment soon. Like it's crazy how they're spying on you. They're when you if you brake too hard or you forget to use your blinker or you do all, your car is often, many models anyway, and I'm not sure what year this transition happened, but are sending all those little mistakes to your insurance company, and that's part of why your insurance rates go up and up and up. You know, they're spying on you and reporting on you, and absolutely ridiculous.
yeah, but if you want the car with all those nifty little functions, if you want the car that'll Amazon shop for you and drive you to Franklin Joe's or whatever it's called, you know, Trader Joe's, you know, like, well,
which
that's
I don't.
the price you must pay, now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, my pickup is probably going to get outlawed from California the next time I drive in. Why? Because I'm smoking out the rear. You know, I have a price to pay too, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a whole nother thing, isn't it? You know?
Right. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here and give a shout out to Ian at Arc Silver Gold Osmium. If you go over to his website, he now has the prices listed for products, which is very nice. This is kind of a new thing from I got to get him on and ask him, but now he's got these prices listed down below for, you know, his different coins and quantities and different rates and whatnot. But overall, he's usually very good on pricing and very competitive. So if anyone is looking for gold or silver or platinum, palladium. In fact, if you look here, he's got gold, platinum, palladium, osmium, and rhenium. And give him a call at 307-264-9441 if you're interested in any large orders. And that is out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. If you are more on the eastern side of the states, you got Harlan J. Burke out of Chicago, Illinois. And so those are a good couple places that I buy from often. If anyone is interested, let's see what we got for call Harlan J. Burke at 312-609-0016. Oh, I'm not sharing that anyway. So yeah, go check out Harlan J. Burke if you're anywhere near Chicago, Illinois, or Arc Silver Gold Osmium if you are on the western side of the states, or anywhere in between. But couple good dealers that I like to use. And or of course visit me or Space Miner for any unique items that you have that you can't find elsewhere, or maybe we have it at a price that makes you happy. So keep your eye out for those deals as well. Knackers O'Reilly says, where do we see silver price going to over the next 6 months? Well, I think we're breaking the triple digits. I'll give you that. As fast as we've got up to 70 here, we might see a pullback for a bit, but if you're giving me 6 months, I definitely think that we'll probably break through the triple digits by then.
I think I'm with you on that too. I mean, max a year, but not financial advice, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm starting to feel a little bit frenzied, just a little bit, like trying to make some motion. But, I think we've got so much room. I think we've got so much room to be had left in silver that I'm really not even panicking about the price going up, because I personally believe the price will be going up for such a long time. Going into the future, it'll continue rising, I think, for a long time. I know we'll be seeing some recoveries. Like, look, a lot of people are going to be getting rich. Let's face it, a lot of people are going to be selling right up there near the top. We're going to see a few drops on the way. But what's inspiring is, I think, how fast we're seeing the recoveries. These guys selling and making these big motions that are actually affecting those charts that we see.
Yeah.
Every time we see those bombers and we're like, oh no, somebody just got super rich. Guys, we're seeing somebody picking that up like fast. We're seeing these drops getting picked up in a day, 2 days. That's nuts. These guys that just got crazy rich, they're going to have to enter back in, but they'll never enter back in with the same position they left with, and that's I think part of how we'll see some of this recovery back into our, into our end of the retail market. Every time these guys drop it and they make a big buck, good for them. They should. I hope I make a big buck someday too. But on that note, if I sell out today for that pretty little price I see on the screen, then that's it. I mean, I better hope it drops or I'm coming in with a new position tomorrow. And that's the reality of it. Now, just for the record, like that's how I did it for years before I got involved in precious metals. I was involved in cryptos and stocks. That's what I did. And quite frequently, I was same day, in and out, same day, in and out, same day. I didn't care. I didn't want to risk whatever happened overnight.
You were a day trader for a while.
I was. For me, it was a safe way to do it. I didn't care what the price was the next day. Didn't give a damn. Percentage is percentage, and a dollar is a dollar, and profit is profit. And that's how I saw it. I didn't give a damn what the price was. How much did I have? How much percentage could I pull? Yeah. It didn't matter. How much of that can I afford? And the faster I could make that trade, the faster I could capture 2%, 3%, 1.5%. I was stoked. No, it might not have been that much that day, but there were better days than others. And, there were some losing days, sure. But the fact is like, I didn't ever worry about the price tomorrow. I was just worried about the profit in that moment. And so whenever I see this silver price going nutso, I'm like, well, I already own some of it, so even if I sold out every last dime of it, whatever I had to come back with tomorrow, I still would with confidence. I don't care, enter in when it's profitable and pull profit when it's profitable. Spend your money while it's worth something and get done spending. So I'm not panicked about any of this, dude. Who cares? Then if it starts dropping, then sell off whatever you bought at the top. Sell it off, every time it hits a mark that you bought in at, at least you'll get your money back, right? But who cares if it's going up and down? Who cares if it drops tomorrow? I think it'll be picked back up. I think it's unavoidable.
Are you talking about day trading still, or what are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about it all is my problem. No, what I'm talking about is if you're going to treat your silver like a day trader, like, oh no, 2% today. Oh no, it dropped 3% today. If you're going to treat your tangible silver like a day trader, then you better have your local coin shop on speed dial. you know, because
Yeah, I would definitely not.
hey,
Yeah, I would not play physical stacker as a day trader. That's for sure. Like, you don't want to, if you're gonna use the paper market, then you might could make it a daily trade or something. But you don't want to use physical and try to make daily trades,
yeah,
because you got your buy-in premium and your sell-out loss, and
right. It's an idiot move to do that, right? So why do we treat it that way when we're talking about these things? Why are these guys treating it that way? Is what I'm arguing here. We hear these guys, tangible stackers, tangible owners. We hear them talking about it as if this is a paper trade, as if this is some stock. And it's not. It's not a stock. It's a tangible good. You got to treat it differently. If you want to trade every day and worry about the price every day and worry about 2.5%, well, buddy, tangible goods might not be your best game. Maybe you should move to crypto.
No, it's a completely different world, completely different thing. Knackers O'Reilly, you're probably on my vertical stream. If you're not seeing all the other comments, most people are on the horizontal stream. So this new streaming software I use has a vertical and a horizontal option. So it streams to both platforms now. So if you would rather, you can just come to my homepage, Long Live Coins. If you go to my site and go to the lives, you should see two different options. One is the vertical, probably, which is you're in if there's not very many comments, and the other one is the horizontal. But all of the comments are coming through on the screen below Space Miner right now too, if you want to just read them that way. And then it really doesn't matter which side you're on, because we see your comments on both sides. And thank you for being here, Knackers. And if you want to hop up on the panel, anybody, just shout it out and I'll get you a link.
Yeah, I just want to re-emphasize for just a second, back to kind of what I've been centralizing on tonight, is like just some common sense and responsibility. Take some accountability for your purchase. Like, just remember, like, every purchase you make is going to be a different type of investment. And so if you're really that worried about liquidity, I got the perfect product for you. Like, look, I get it. You're worried about silver liquidity. Sure. All right, fine. You know what's liquid? US dollar. Liquid AF, bro. You can just liquidate it in a moment. Boom. It's so liquid, it's losing value for you. It's spending itself for you. That's how liquid it is. So if liquidity is your problem, well, buddy, you probably shouldn't be tying yourself up in something that might take, more than 24 seconds to move, as it would be kind of my argument in this. Like, I really would like to see more in our culture taking some accountability for the different types of investments we're making, and quit acting like, there's some like major problem with it going from 71 down to 56 and then back up to 102. If you don't like that kind of a swing, if you're not prepared for that, if you're too worried about it, I would encourage you to hold off, do some more research until you have the confidence in your purchase, because you're purchasing into a different lifestyle, a different financial lifestyle when you start converting. And the closer you get to more tangible than you have fiat, you're going to have to live a different lifestyle. I don't get to spend my money the same way somebody that's loaded with fiat on PayPal gets to spend it, I don't get to spend my money the same way. And so that's it. It's not as liquid as having a whole bunch in the bank on a debit card. That's super liquid. I can burn that up in no time. So, all right.
Yeah, so there's a comment here by Mr. Welch Go Services. Go check him. He's got a channel himself. Go subscribe to him as well. And he is saying gold, silver are not an investment; it's real money, and that is very true. But I wanna expand on this a little bit because there's been a lot of talk about that. Is gold and silver an investment or not? Generally, it's very much just as Welchco says, gold is money, everything else is credit. This is a statement by bank head mobster. I believe it was J.P. Morgan or his dad or something. But anyway, yeah, gold and silver are our money, have always been money for thousands of years, simply because it's the most liquid commodity worldwide that everyone is willing to take worldwide. And that's kind of just, it just naturally is money because it doesn't go bad, it doesn't mold, it just holds its value. Everyone accepts it worldwide. You don't need to understand the language written on the paper for you to accept it. You just know it by the metal itself and its intrinsic value. That being said, this last 60, 70 years of us being on this monetary fiat system, we've put reality aside, and we're living in this false reality, and it's made us fat and bloated over here in America. And we're used to getting what we want at a pretty cheap price. But it's from this false reality that we're able to print this money out of thin air. And while the confidence is there, while before people figure out the scheme and what's taking place, you do get a lot of value from that. Like, I've had a good life in America here, partially from this fiat system that I'm very much against, because it creates that false reality where you think that you're secure, but you're not. And so that's why at this particular time, gold and silver can be viewed a bit more in the investment understanding, because it is not just, and this is another argument that people make, well, it's not gold and silver going up, it's just the dollar going down. Okay, well, this is all relative, it's all tied together. But as this fiat inflation gets carried away, remember, it's the global reserve fiat as well. And so it's not just the U.S. losing its fiat purchasing power, and so just the U.S. goes to gold and silver. No, this is a worldwide standard. And so all of these different cultures, since they're all tied, their fiats are tied to our fiat, and as ours starts to hyperinflate, theirs is going to go down in value. So all of these fiats are going to go down in value, and everyone is going to start trying to get into something of real value, and that's where gold and silver are going to probably outperform most other commodities. And so this is one of those unique moments in time. In fact, this one is probably, to my knowledge, not happened in the same way. So this is kind of a unique moment where all of the world is going from fiat, fake, false reality that we've been living in back to a commodity-based, real value era. So in this particular case, it's not, gold and silver are actually going to increase in value more than just the dollar is going down. So in this case, I think that you can somewhat view it as an investment for this period of time, even though it is just real money. But the fact that we've been living in a false reality lends credence to it gaining that much more value and actually kind of being an investment in this particular case. So, and Welchco says he concurs. Good deal. I'm glad to hear it. Because, yeah, it's kind of It's all of these things tied together, and being we're not just the United States currency, so it'll just be our states going to gold and silver. No, this is going to be a worldwide effect, and therefore a lot of value that's tied up in fiat or up in the air is going to get forced back into commodities, and the biggest performer there will probably be gold and silver. So keep that in mind. Neil says platinum is outperforming them all. Yeah, platinum is just really taken off here too, doing quite well. So
Yeah, I got a lot.
I wouldn't. Sorry, I'll let you go here in a second, Space Miner. I wouldn't say without BRICS, Neil, because BRICS is they're running their new currency too, or new basically using gold again, and opened up a new trading platform. Their unit is maybe still kind of not really a big deal. That's more just a sideshow, but they do have a new trading platform, and it will be settled in gold, and so it's gonna make a big difference. Yeah, I'd say all the metals have room to run, but go ahead, Space Miner. Sorry for interrupting you there.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just responding to the platinum thing. I was just saying I got a lot of confidence in platinum. I think we're only seeing that beginning motion. Wait till the hype comes with it, and everybody's like, "Hey, I better get on board with that." But right now we're I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of media frenzy for it until it's too late. I hear all the time out of the market, oh, what's platinum even used for? Nobody wants platinum, and I'm like, whoa, thinking, oh my, because we like to act like we make this big difference in the market, like on social media and stuff. Like if I don't care about platinum, then it ain't worth nothing. It's only worth what somebody wants to buy it for kind of attitude, which is like, hey, sure, true enough, but they don't care if you're buying a 1 ounce platinum bar, because they're talking about moving platinum in tons and tons and tons when you're looking at like catalytic ceramics, and so they don't care about your opinion. Because you know what? That while you're trashing on platinum, you're paying $3,000 for a new catalytic converter.
Right.
They don't care.
Yeah.
And so, and platinum's one of the toughest. As far as recovery goes, it's more rare than gold. Far more rare than gold, and it's more difficult to extract and refine, and it's very difficult. It can be very difficult to process and manufacture. And so a lot of people think these are the challenges, but in fact, at the end of the day, these are the benefits, because these people get to charge whatever they want. And they're going to make laws that say you have to use them. And we're going to have economic needs that demand their usage, like petroleum catalytics, chemical catalytics, medical equipment. Meanwhile, the world turns on. And so I'm extremely enthusiastic about platinum. I've been thinking about, reallocating some resources towards it, and hopping on board before it's too late. But I think we still got a little bit of trade wiggle going on, but I think that's just it, kind of like building its new floor right now. It's the rough draft of the new floor. And like you pointed out earlier, like with the BRICS thing, as far as I'm concerned, this is the natural conclusion to a commodity over fiat crisis. We're looking into the future, guys. Like, this is what we're going to have to kind of deal with at some point too. It's not like we're not going to be figuring out what to call our BRIC system when the time comes. Yep. So,
yeah, it's interesting. 6 9. Oh, nickel. Yeah.
Well, nickel
Yeah,
bringing up nickel's a representation of this, you know.
right. Yeah. Speaking of nickel, I have an order of that coming in. So hopefully, if anybody's looking for some 395 plus pure nickel, don't ask me yet because I got to get it in hand. But once I get it in hand, it will be available. Blazed, welcome in. Don't think I've seen you in here. Good to have you. Welcome into the Beehive. It's Fed Now. Yeah, we're talking about Fed Now and their happy printing abilities. So yeah, we're discussing the metals increasing in value as the Fed continues to print the fiat dollar, therefore restricting its value more and more. Mr. Happy Stacker, good to see you. Hope you're well. I gotta step out for 1 second. Why don't you cover the floor there for me for a minute, if you don't mind, Space Miner?
Sure, of course. Hey guys, welcome in. You just stepped in. Yeah, we are in a crazy time for sure. Yeah, we're moving into the digital. That's nuts. So it's a little bit unavoidable, I think. You know, but at the end of the day, all of this has to be structured on something real, right? You know, commodities, real things at the end of the day. Otherwise, what are you moving this all around for? You know, somebody's getting paid for the price of bread. Algo and XLM help make the Fed Now coin. You know, I've been talking about that a long time. You know, like Texas uses XLM for a lot of their medical systems for data transmission and stuff. And I'm not opposed to tokenization. That's one of the things I like about those, actually, is I'm not completely opposed to tokenization, you know, for as a means of trade, because like when you're talking about precious metals, you know, yeah, I've said that before, you know, I'd like it to be returnable in precious metals, you know, but tokenization is kind of a necessary function, because if not, you're going to be backed by nothing, right? But when you start like B here's brought up before, like when these guys are like hyper tokenizing, you know, where like 1,000 people own like a quarter acre, you know, how are you supposed to ever break that up? How are you ever supposed to like, you know, reclaim your value out of that, you know, without some kind of other trade? You know, you'll have to trade in and out of what, 50, 60, 70, 80 things. And this is kind of like, and this is kind of the problem that they're trying to overcome with this like tokenization issues. And out of this stems the whole like core seed reason for like you own nothing and be happy, because they're just going to smash everything into one pool and everybody gets their own individual values of production over what you own or don't own. Dang, 72, 75, golly. I'm not going to panic though, because like I said, like it's just the cost it is today. I wished I would have spent more yesterday, right? But just buy it, you know, buy it and wait it out. You know?
Yeah, and keep the bigger picture in mind, and that it's, you know, like so many people are talking in the stacking community still about what time they want to get out, and I really want you to question and think about that. Get out into what? You know, get out into a house, okay. Get out into a car that you really need, okay. Get out into something that has a good value, sure. Get out into our paper fiat dollar to make your bank account look bigger. I just don't think that's a smart idea right now. because I think the dollar's gonna continue to lose its value until we end up on some new system. So I
You know,
want to go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
That was my initial motivating factor right there, buddy, to get involved in my own finances anyways, to kind of like wake up to it. When I kind of like one day I realized I was just working my ass off, stacking bank accounts, trying to like save to get ahead. Just save your money and you'll get ahead, they said. And dude, just the prices, like, dude, I kept on going out. You get a better position, you get a better job, you make more money, you work more hours, the taxes are going up, so you got to cram in a couple more hours. And man, I was just all the time just treading water, no matter how much I increased, just treading water, treading water. And I was like desperate for a way out of it. And it was the recognition, dude, your fiat's only good for buying something. Your fiat's only good for buying something. What the hell are you going to buy? That's worth something, And so I tried to like make my money turn into something, started investing in stocks and cryptos and trying to turn it around to make it worth something. But a lot of these stocks were, even though they were meagerly gaining, meanwhile, the price of bread didn't care, I was still losing, just slower, so I tried to speed it up with crypto, speed up the timing, and it works, but it's so volatile and wishy-washy, you just never know. You can't predict these markets. And so I realized, man, I need to slow it down with something more stable and income precious metals. And turned out to be, it was like the Goldilocks zone for me, because I had something stable enough to put it into that I didn't have to like panic every day. I didn't have to set like limit orders to. It was still gaining in value. And finally, I was capturing my values back enough to start growing again. I couldn't have bought land without growing.
Cool. Yeah. So copper will be $6 a pound soon. Nickel says, yeah, and also besides the nickel coming in, pure nickel 395 plus nickel bars. I have some of that coming in that will be available soon, and I also have copper 4/9 fine, which is another level up from the average rounds you buy at the store. You can buy a 1 ounce round of 3/9 fine copper for $2. You can get, from me, you can get 4/9 fine copper, 2 ounces for $1. So we're flipping that on its head and making copper maybe a little bit more worthwhile. If that's something that interests you and you like pouring it and whatnot. I would like to point out on something that Space Miner was touching on a little bit, and it really has a big deal to why I started my channel. And I want to make a video about this in the future, but I'll touch on it briefly. Now is what I can consider my physical silver stack, okay, as being a base for me in value in this physical world we're living in, the monetary realm in which we are. But I came into silver from a spiritual standpoint or an etherical standpoint, however you want to view this. I was thinking into the world, or allowing for the world to think with me, kind of like if you've ever put a question out in your mind and you just think a question, and a few days later the answer shows up to you, whether it be you think of it or you see it in the world, or for some reason that question gets answered. It's like it went out into the ethereal world, into the ether, or into the spiritual realm, however you want to view that. I was looking at all of the lies being told back in 2017. That's when I got into stacking. And I was seeing lies continually in the news, lies and deception in so many different ways. And that was, I started a family, a wife and 2 boys. And, I love very much. And I feel I have, a need to take care of them. And I was seeing all these lies in the world. And that drove me to protect my family. And I ended up at a gun show. And at this gun show, I came across a table that had a bunch of beautiful silver and gold laid out, and got to talking to a guy there about money and what's going on there. And so I thought about that, and I thought about all the lies taking place, and then I looked into the monetary system, and sure enough, there's a massive amount of lies and fraudulent things taking place there. And so in looking at the lies that I was seeing and the lies in the monetary system, I was able to take from the ethereal or the spiritual and apply it to the physical. And that's where I started my stack. It became the reason I started stacking silver was not because I thought it was shiny or that I was going to get rich, or that. No, I did it from a stability standpoint to protect my family. But I got that from the spiritual realm or the ethereal realm or whatever you're pondering into that reality. And I was able to bring that into the physical, and it's very much protected me. And so, but through that, when in 2017, this was, mind you, and so in looking into the monetary system and figuring out silver and gold, of course, I also looked at crypto and Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, of course, is a big shiny hook with a fat, juicy worm on it. And I knew, and I talked to my friends about it and said, I know I could make a large value from getting into crypto. But again, it's what I'm going to refer to as my spiritual stack. So I have a physical stack, but then I also have a spiritual stack, in which I think it's more important to put more value into that stack than the physical stack. And so I weigh things on a scales, right? Just weights and just balances. And you not only need it for just weights and just balances for the physical, but I believe should also be the same in the spiritual or etherical, or however you would look at that. In that, I don't want to invest in defense stocks, even though I know we're going into war and there's a lot of money to be made there. I believe that since I have the knowledge, or was shown the knowledge, that all of this deception is going to come back to hurt you if you don't protect yourself in some ways. And so I believe that I was very lucky to be able to see that or be shown that. And so I don't want to take that knowledge and then get greedy and apply it to, I'm going to use everything I can to get rich, because I could invest in defense stocks. And no offense if you do invest in it. This is just me. But it's the same with Bitcoin for me as well. It's not that I have anything against Bitcoin, and I actually know that it can make you lots of value. It's that I looked at it as it being a hook or a trap for human society, in that they're using that as a lure to get people to tie their heart up in this electronic value. And then once you have you make a whole bunch of money in Bitcoin, your heart's going to be very much into electronic money, and you're going to be able to jump through whatever hoop to keep that value. And so they're going to, say, you got to scan your this or that, or you got to enter this to access the internet. Well, if you have a lot of value tied up in Bitcoin or any electronic value, you're going to be willing to enter in whatever they're asking for so that you can access it. And I didn't want that power and leverage over me. And I didn't want to get into something, even though I thought it might make me a lot of money, if it's going to add some corrosion into my spiritual stack or some corruption into my spiritual stack. And then I might get more dollars, but if it's a corrupt dollar, then that some way is going to have a negative effect play on me in the future. And so for me, I want to keep it clean. I want to keep it pure. I'm just looking for stability and protection for my family. And so I just wanted to throw that in there, that I think it's very important to keep the, truth or the spiritual realm or the goodness, the good versus bad. Always keep that good buffer stack. I've got a stack in that spiritual basket that keeps a buffer from me, from whatever's out there trying to harm me. And so I think that's something very valuable. And to that, like I was talking earlier on, you need to, make up your mind for yourself. Like not just like and subscribe to someone because they tell you to like and subscribe. Do it because you decided to, because you like something or you want to do something. And if we're going to be, like we were somewhat founded on these life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal under God. Well, if we're supposed to be that morals-based, truth-seeking, just weights, just balances society, then we would have to make our decisions up ourselves and not be told to do this, that, or the other. Because if we're just following orders, we're not being a ethically based nation. We're just order followers. And therefore, how could we be going down the right track if all we do is let others think for us, as Welchco was saying earlier? So, all right, I'll stop with my rant there. But for me, that's important. Is not just, how do you get rich? Like, I've never actually been about that. I'm not seeking to get rich. I've never been about money. In fact, I'm the worst person with money. Ask my family. I'm not good with money. Only until I got into silver did have I been able to save a little bit of value. And that's just because, to me, I seen the bigger picture and realized that this is not an even playing field and that I need to take steps to protect my family. So.
And I like that, B, that you say that, because it kind of raises the point, that maybe we don't need the speed of transaction and speed of currency, right now in our social climate. Maybe it could really start doing this nation a little bit of good to have your money slowed down just a notch. Like, you can't just chuck it across the nation in 5 seconds.
Right.
That at every purchase, it'll, that was one of the things I found. Yeah, it slowed me down a lot. As soon as I started buying into silver and gold, man, I stopped being as quick to spend cash elsewhere. I was like, that's metal. That's a lot of metal. Maybe I shouldn't spend that. Or and then once you got it in, like I was saying earlier, I don't have the speed of transaction as a lot of people do. For me to spend money requires like a sincere effort on my part, to go out there and actually sell the silver. And so on that note, it has done me a lot of good in that sense. And you know what? As somebody that was coming out of stocks and cryptos, and putting that real tangible in my hand again, I do sometimes reflect on remembering what that's like to hold your money again, to hold your value again, to hold something
reality. Yeah,
it is liquid, but it's not some high pressure wash machine. It's liquid, It is, but it's not some high speed thing. But I mean, it is when you want it to be. Like if you can find somebody to transact with, oh, buddy, that's the simplest transaction in the world. Badoop, badoop, done. End of story. So clean, so honest, one hand to the next, you know,
Yeah.
and it's done. It's so honest. It's so clean. It's so functional.
Yeah.
It is a nice way to transact. It always just like, I always feel good whenever I change paper cash in for silver. Man, that always feels good. I always,
Well, it feels so good, doesn't it? When you understand what's going on, it's like, oh, such a relief.
my God, thank you. I am happy for that. I don't care that I paid some ridiculous premium because guess what? You know, I
And
have
that's
it.
why, to that point, that makes me happy to pay the premium. Like, you don't ever see me complaining about the premium. Firstly, you don't have to buy it if you don't want to. If that's too high of a premium, don't buy it. Fine, don't complain about it. Go somewhere else. If it's such a bad premium, you should be able to find it elsewhere for much cheaper if that's true. But
Right.
I'm happy to because, like you say, when I'm handing them my fake dollars, there better be a premium there for them, or I'm actually stealing value from them because I'm giving them a depreciating element. You
It
know,
almost feels dirty, doesn't it? Like, ha ha,
it does,
you're
and
tricking them.
that's why I'm happy
What they
to
want.
pay that premium. Indeed. Hey, blue
This
collar
is what
stacker.
they want, bro. That's why they're selling out their silver. They want the USD, dude. They want that image. They
Right.
want that like safety feeling. You know, like, hey, if I need to run down to the store for bread, like right now, I got it, and that's good because yeah, that paper serves a purpose. It's the ability to go like right now, microwave culture, man, right now. That's what it gives you the ability to do. So if you didn't buy enough milk for the week, yeah, that paper's really freaking handy. You know, if you didn't prepare, yeah, that paper's great. But you're running out of time on your paper, and you know it when you're holding a stack of paper. When
Yeah.
you hold that wad, and you're going like, you just know the time's ticking. Like I should go out and get that pickup before somebody else grabs it. I should go get that gun before somebody else grabs it. Oh man, I should get this deal while it's still on sale before the price goes up again.
And that mentality is only going to grow going from here forward. That's why those premiums are going to continue to grow too. Because as that coin dealer, that accepts your fiat and hands you the better product, he deserves at the end of the day to be able to take that stack of cash and, re-up on his end as well. So,
well, yeah, he's playing his game too. He's got his commodity. We got ours.
Yeah,
you know,
it needs to. Everyone should be benefiting, right? Like, so that's another thing that I see too much hate in the coin dealing business, where from that people get so stickler about the premium, and it's like, hey, this, the guy that makes the pizza marks all of those ingredients up. He has to make some value out of the deal. It's the same here, so. Jonathan Britton, welcome in. Don't think I've seen you in here. Welcome into the Beehive. Good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, we've had Britton before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, thank you for coming back then.
Thank you, Britton.
I reached my silver goal, buying fractional gold, platinum, osmium, and ruthenium now to diversify. Awesome! Good to see that you've got your bases covered and are able to branch out into some other metals that may run. That's very cool.
Was his osmium, if I can remember, was arc bead, I want to say. I think Britton's been buying like 1 gram and 5 gram arc beads or something like that.
Cool.
For his osmium. It's pretty cool. I appreciate your diversity. Diversity in my world is to be respected, and I think it's wise. Because, like, look, here's my argument for diversity, if I may.
Okay, let me say, Blaze, thanks for stopping in. Hope to see you again. Have a good day at work. Catch you later.
Shoot. Later, Blaze. Yeah, argument for diversity. When gold's running, through the roof, and that coin shop guy, he's like, hey man, I bought enough gold right now. You know, gold's at an all-time high. I've really bought enough gold for right now. You know, I'm too thin. You know, um, he might look at you and say, I don't know, you got any silver? You know, and then he might say, hey, you know, I got a good deal for 90% right now. Give you a good deal for 90%. Or he might say, hey, you got straight silver, you know, but maybe he's bought up on both, but he's still got a little bit of cash for something else. Maybe platinum might catch his interest, you know. Maybe he has some element collectors come in and out of his store. It might be a good time to pass off some other rarities, some exotics. You know, maybe it's just a time to have enough diversity to have a little bit of cash in your pocket. Because I'd say cash counts as diversity too, you know? And so I do appreciate diversity. You got to be prepared to move with different people, you know? And everybody's looking for something a little bit different. So I really do.
So, yeah, for West Texas, the crystallized osmium at 1 gram is, hold on, let me grab that page, is at right about 2,500. 2,495.92. We're going to round that up to 2,500.
Wow.
That's for the crystallized osmium, of course, which I have
That means some of my pieces are double.
here on display. Whoa.
That's so cool, man.
Get a little light on the subject at hand.
And for the record, I'm in the long hold for crystallized. I'm in the long hold. I hate selling it sometimes. I really do. Like I sell it because you know it's the right thing to do, but man, sometimes I'm like, oh, bye. You know, like I'm not going to be able to pick as much up next time. You know, but it's okay. All right. Hey, I'll be right back.
All right. All precious metals are doing well, but rhodium. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I think, and I've been saying for a while here on this channel, that with these exotic metals, you know, gold and silver being manipulated for as long as they have has kept the other metals somewhat shielded from sight. And now that gold and silver are starting to take off, I believe that, you know, people are going to move into gold and silver. It's going to become unobtainium or else really expensive. And then that's going to cause other people to see how much value increases is in those metals. And they're going to start going through the rest of the metals with a fine-tooth comb, seeing what else is probably unnoticed and undervalued, and move into those. So, and those are tiny markets. You think the platinum market is small, try its byproduct osmium, and now we're talking really small. So you know, a little bit of money, a little bit of fiat can move into those you know, smaller niche metals and really drive them through the roof. So I expect that to happen, and not just with like all commodities, basically, right? This is going to end up being a commodity war when things finish out. So the Golden Fleet may want some osmium, maybe demand later. Oh yeah, yep. Oh, it's the most dense, most abrasion resistant. It's you know, the molecules are so tightly put together. Nothing is as dense or as hard.
Compression resistant.
Compression resistance. It being
Ocean resistance.
yeah, it's noble. It's the most noble of the metals. for corrosion. So all of these different things, let alone it being the rarest element known to man, and most reflect, you just seen me shine the light on those, most reflective in its natural crystalline form of any element. You take those and there's many more things that we can add to the list there. It has its own built-in unique fingerprint that can't be forged. You start adding all these things together, and just because it was only found a couple hundred years ago and we don't have all of the industry or known use cases for it, doesn't mean that it's not going to find its value here in the future. So that's what I think about it.
Well, I think we're already seeing the values of it now in the early stages.
The early
we're
stages.
already seeing it being used, and we're in the early stages. Like crystalline osmium's only been available made available since 2014 and made available since 2017 as like something to purchase and use. It created a way for us to start trading it safely, hand to hand.
Yeah. Not just amongst people. It's recognized in customs, and with every country. In fact, it was China that wouldn't accept it into their country until they had their own.
Japan.
Or excuse me, Japan, before they did their own unique testing on it. And the OIC number that you find on each package when you order is the customs code. And so customs is, very easy to deal with this metal. And you can hold the value of a house in one disc, and easily jump on a plane, have that disc hanging around your neck or in your pocket or what have you, and take a value of a house, in your pocket quite easily. You could take several houses in your pocket with this stuff and, travel to whatever country you want to without being harassed. You have the tangible good in hand when you arrive. And so that's a way to move a high amounts of value with and still keep it in your hand the whole time. So it's another cool property about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're pointing at like one of my favorite things about crystallized osmium, that value density, but on that security note and that trade note, like we're talking about the value of a home being traded. Well, here in America, we might seem a bit incredulous, like, oh, I don't know. I don't even know about crystallized osmium. You tell me they're trading houses for it? Yeah. Look, guys, we're not under the same kind of scrutiny with our precious metals as most people are in other countries. Some of these metals are heavily regulated. And so anytime these people can get a portion of their money into something else that isn't heavily regulated, like they are happy to. But the problem is finding those kind of investments that aren't heavily regulated, yet still very valuable. And this is what they're seeing, that they're responding to their cultures, their markets, their laws, their economies, right? But we are seeing it function in these trade values, like where people are asking for payments in houses in crystallized osmium. Why? Because if they put it in the gold, their ass is going to be taxed through the hole. They would love to find anything of value that's actually valuable. And a lot of these just are simply unusable and untradeable to them. Some of these other precious metals, iridium, what are they going to do with that? Like, it's extremely valuable, sure. But like, what do they do with that? How do they market it out too? But with the crystallized osmium, we're talking about a precious metal that it is directly available and ready to use, like out of the box. Like you buy a chunk of it and you throw it in your jewelry and boom, it's ready to use. Throw it in your watch and boom, it's ready to use. And this is the value that these people are recognizing in it right now. They're recognizing its elemental rarity. You know, the rarest, stable, naturally occurring element we know of. One of the most corrosion resistant materials mankind's ever seen. Now, you know, like, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good store value so far. What about its beauty? It's gorgeous. What about its functionality? Ready to use, you know? And
built-in fingerprint.
Yeah, well, what about regulate? Is it heavily regulated? Nope. Fully privatized. Fully private. It's the governments are barely aware of it. You know, outside of what they need it for. You know, there's not that much of it. Why would they waste their time with this? You know, and so they're worried about your gold and silver and platinum and palladium. That's what they're focused on. You know, they're recognizing your copper investments, your nickel investments. They're recognizing these, and then here's old osmium just living off in a corner. Yet it meets every quality plus some, and this is what they recognize, and so this is why they're trading in it. It is real. It is happening, like it or not. They're using it in this way. Huge values. And so I think it's one of my favorite parts of it is that value density. Like you said, unforgeable.
Yep.
Like you said, hop on a plane, fly across the world, and it's still worth that.
Yep. And Mr. Happy Stacker is asking you, can you use osmium as a security feature? And indeed, you can. Go ahead on that one.
You know, 10,000 times more recognition factor than your fingerprint. You know, a buddy of mine are already looking into it as a, you know, optical security feature, you know, like a optically scanned key, you know, laser scanned key. 10,000 times per square millimeter, 10,000 times more recognition points than your fingerprint per square millimeter. You got a, you know, 2 square millimeter disc. I mean, that is a lot of security feature. It's way more than any crypto security. It's just it's tangible crypto security, tangible crypto.
Yeah, and it's the element that you can hold that is the most valuable, the most rare element in the world. And, you know, I don't necessarily buy onto the, you know, it was one exploding star that created gold and silver. No, now it's 2 exploding stars that make gold. But if you buy into that exploding star makes gold and silver theory, you're talking about, and then you get into the angel dust thing, right? Where these stars are, well, you want to talk about some true rare angel dust in the palm of your hand. You're not going to beat osmium.
Yeah. Well, and here, because I might have not even fully comprehended the question at first, but thinking about it, yes, you can also use it as a security feature in your coins, in your art, in your fashion. You know, if you were a sunglass company, you know, some famous maker, and you were worried about, like, you know, Oakley and the fake Oakleys, everybody knows that. It's legendary. The Rolex and fake Rolexes, everybody knows this. You put that in there, they have to replicate that too. And how many people you know putting out crystallized metal, much less osmium? And you can't fake that. You can't fake it. You just have to actually be able to do it.
Right. You can't put something into the most dense element to forge it, because you can't get more dense. You can't fit it inside there without growing the product. So,
yeah.
Let alone
famous jewelry makers,
right?
You know. Yeah. No. Keep going, B. My apologies.
I'm actually thinking we pretty much probably ran my course here for this stream and got the points across that I wanted to get across, and probably about time to wind this one down. I got another one I want to do, but for this one, I think we covered our points fairly well. The possibilities are endless, indeed, Mr. Abbott. That's the thing. That's the opportunity right now. Like, the pushback that I've gotten in osmium is, oh well, I haven't found a big enough worldwide across board industry standard for it yet that I trust in it. Well, that's that's commodity investing 101. If it has all these unique attributes that aren't bad and actually they're all amazingly positive, then you just haven't found the use yet. It's coming. Like I was saying in a past live stream, we actually defined our history by metals, by the finding, by the understanding of a new metal. We have the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, that's because we're finding that new metal, and it advanced the society so much from the understanding and ability to use that metal that we named our history after it. And just this is a new metal that we just found a few hundred years ago. It actually ranks at the top of all the other metals in its density, it's got a blue color that other metals don't have. I mean, just the list of rare mosts that this metal has it's actually quite impressive. And just because we haven't found, all of these different use cases industrially for it so far, even though many right now are on the board, including quantum computing, which the amount of electrical capacity that it can carry at a low temperature, at a room temperature, is quite impressive, and having such a high melting point in the metal itself. That's another one of these mosts, is this melting, and that's a new one that just came to my head. And that's the thing, is all of these mosts just keep coming in. Like, the list just keeps growing and growing, and it having such a high melting point and such electrical connectivity makes it, that's why they're looking at it for quantum computing right now. So the use cases will be found. We already have many that people don't know about. It's used in medical. It's used in quite a few different industry applications already. So it's the possibilities are endless, as you say there. So. And with that, I think we're about ready to wrap it up here. Does Barry in Texas have a website? I found it once, but can't again. Yeah, I think it's Zarete. Zarete. ZARETE, I think, is his site.
Yep.
Space Miner, hope to see you on GMS soon. Good morning, stackers. Did you catch that, Space Miner? He was talking to you.
Oh, there we go. Hope to see you on GMS soon. I know. We're due. It'll happen when it happens, So that's cool. It'll buy me some time to maybe, hopefully, get my butt down there, huh? Just show up in person, show you on the beaches, show you in the deserts, show you while I'm running from angry kangaroos. So.
All right, guys. Cool. Thank you all for hanging out. Greatly appreciate it. Yes, Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year. I'll be back probably before that, but so I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for hanging out for this one, and we will catch you all on the next one.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.